Hello everyone, it's very nice to see all of you here today. Maybe we can give just like 30 seconds more for everyone to join the session before we start. So let's just give few seconds. And in meantime, if you could write us on the chat where you are joining us from, which organization, where are you based, it will be very good to hear from you also, like who we have today with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. And just maybe a kind reminder, as you can see below, you will see a Q&A box. So we would kind of ask like all of you to put your questions there so we can check them and we will make sure to answer as much as we can. So please put your questions to the Q&A. If you cannot find the Q&A box, no problem. You can also put it on the chat and we will do our best to answer it. Okay, perfect. So I think we can start with the session. If everything is fine from our side, yes. Okay, everything looks perfect. So hello everyone. I am Burcu Maviş. I'm the Blockchain Academy and Accelerator Lead from UNDP Alternative Finance Lab. I'm very happy to moderating this session today on closing the knowledge divide, and the topic is very, very close to my heart. Last November, we launched the first ever Blockchain Academy that is tailored for the UN ecosystem in partnership with Algorand Foundation, whom we also have as one of the speakers today in our panels. And our open call took around 2 weeks, and we received over 640 applicants from 21 UN entities and departments across 134 countries. The interest we got from our colleagues was like tremendous. And to be honest, the number was much more than we expected. So seeing the interest from the colleagues to learn more about blockchain was really something very motivating to both us and also Algorand team. And we started our academy in January with 500 participants from UNDP, UNCDF, and UNV within UNDP. And the academy is still ongoing, and we plan to have our graduation event in May. Before we started the academy, whenever we talked to our colleagues about blockchain, most of our colleagues thought that blockchain is only crypto and nothing more than that. They didn't really know the technology behind it. And now that we launched our academy, our aim as a team was to equip our colleagues with the knowledge and the skills so that they can utilize the blockchain technology for the development challenges. And we can already see that our colleagues are really familiar with the blockchain technology now. Our aim was not to provide a technical knowledge, but for them to understand that they can utilize blockchain technology on different aspects of their work, such as supply chain, such as digital payments, such as digital identity. So for us, I think to kind of make them understand that the blockchain is something that they can utilize to make their work more efficient and more, of course, like impactful was our aim. And now we can see that so many of my colleagues are sending me so many emails, and then they would like to pilot their first blockchain projects with our acceleration program that we just launched now. So I'm really looking forward to hear more from our panelists today about such initiatives and also to learn more about why they believe closing knowledge divide is crucial. And today we have with us different stakeholders from different backgrounds. And I hope that we will have more of an idea about why we all come here today for this crucial topic. Before I move to my questions, I would like to introduce our speakers and also kindly ask each one of them to introduce themselves and say a few words about themselves. So maybe we can start with Sandra, who is the head of philanthropy from Exponential Science Foundation. Over to you, Sandra.
Hi, thank you, and nice to meet you all. So yes, I'm Sandra. I'm leading the philanthropy division at Exponential Science Foundation. A bit about background about myself. So I've been in the blockchain space for over 6 years now, but before that I was more in traditional finance. I was in investment banking and then also venture capital, and started up my own VC accelerator with the UK government. And then now I'm working with Exponential Science Foundation to build philanthropy tools and blockchain tools for the philanthropy sector, trying to onboard them into blockchain and trying to increase the efficiency of this sector. And so with Exponential Science Foundation, we're a science foundation creating impact for the using blockchain in all different sectors, empowering different leaders to be able to pursue that. So yeah, that's just a little bit about myself.
Thank you so much, Sandra. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more from your engagement with the government, because this is something that we are really getting a lot of requests So I will ask also one of my questions related to that. So maybe now we can move to Matt, who is the director of impact from the Algorand Foundation. Over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Bartu. Hey, everybody. My name is Matt Keller. My background is the first half of my career I spent in U.S. politics on Capitol Hill, and then also lobbying on issues of ethics reform, voter reform, and campaign finance reform for about 15 years. And then kind of took a left-hand turn and went to the United Nations World Food Program, where I was senior legal officer there for about 5 years in Rome. And that I kind of fell in love then with the idea of technology and learning, actually, and went to a project out of the MIT Media Lab called One Laptop Per Child, which was a while ago, but at the time was kind of a relatively cutting edge program. And then that led to something called the Global Learning X Prize, which I ran for 6 years in Tanzania, which was a competition to elicit the greatest software designed for self-learning for kids who have no availability for teachers or schools. And so that was my love in technology. And I came to the blockchain space about 3 years ago with the same belief that the right technology in certain circumstances can make a big difference. Not that it's going to be transformational or any of those kind of hyperbolic words, but I think blockchain, in a lot of what Virtue's colleagues do and my former WFP colleagues do, can make a profound difference. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Matt. And we work a lot because of the Blockchain Academy. And I think I'm really looking forward to hear more about what do the blockchain companies think when it comes to also closing the knowledge divide. So I'm really looking forward to hear more from your side as well. So now I would like to give word to Alex. Over to you, Alex.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm founding general partner of Verda Ventures. We invest in tokenized financial infrastructure and focused on stable coins and, in general, financial access. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. So maybe I would like to start with Sandra again, and then I would like to ask you, Sandra, about a little bit more about your work with the government. So can you answer us on how is exponential science currently working to close the knowledge gap in blockchain technology, particularly in its engagement with the governments or public institutions? Could you share some examples of the initiatives or partnerships that are advancing in this effort? You mentioned that you are working also with the UK government, so maybe you could also elaborate on that. Over to you, Sandra.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. So Exponential Science Foundation, as I just highlighted, is a foundation making leaders and business empowered to adopt blockchain and also AI and other deep technologies. So we were founded by 2 UCL professors. So we come from a very academic kind of background. And then we have about 40 people underneath us who are all researchers, engineers, and we do 3 main things. So we do conduct our own academic research. We also do in-house innovations, and then we also invest in other startups and also spin out our own startups using blockchain or AI or different deep technologies. So as a foundation, one of our central aims is education and education into other sectors. And especially into involving sovereigns, involving governments, because that's where we see it trickle down. If they are more empowered, enlightened about blockchain and all the different effects that it could impact, then we believe that would trickle down. So, for example, we have a few different brands and initiatives below us. So one of them is UK CBT. So this takes all the different universities together, especially in the UK, and we host different events, seminars, and then we conduct different educational workshops to try to get all the universities on the same page. So that's just one initiative. And then moving more to the government sovereign side, one of our flagship events is called the Peer-to-Peer Conference. So this is all about financial literacy, and then also DeFi. And so our first ever conference was held with a German bank, and then subsequent years we've held it with the Bank of England, with Vara in Dubai, And so the ethos behind that is to really educate all these governments, all the people within the central banks about what is crypto, what is blockchain as a technology, and also inform about the regulations and maybe come together to see if we can align. Because as you know, regulations are very different depending on jurisdiction. And then there's a lot of change as well. The technology is also constantly evolving. So what we see is there needs to be alignment between all of these sovereigns, especially in the financial sector, because it impacts a lot of different sectors. It impacts even traditional banks. So we are doing that and putting a big focus on DeFi. And then we're also, right now, we've just got a £9 million contract with the Commonwealth to host a range of workshops, educations, learnings and hackathons across 56 different countries. So this is, again, empowering all the countries to figure out how they can adopt blockchain, how to use it, what are the regulations they need. Because as you know, the Commonwealth, there's 56 countries, there's so many, it's not a monoculture. And so we're working closely together with all the different leads of those countries to figure out a way to improve the knowledge in this sector. So we're doing a lot of things. We're publishing our own research, our own academic research as well, spinning that out, and then just partnering with a lot of different organizations, not just governments, also different protocols to align ourselves, and also not to work in silos, make sure that we're working together. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alexandra. I also think that, like you mentioned, different stakeholders coming, like universities, governments, banks, all of them coming together to build the ecosystem is what we need mostly, of course, whenever we want to do something, not only for blockchain, but like overall. And I also think that because of the fact that like UNDP cannot exist without the approval of the government. So whenever we work in a country, I think for us, sometimes we are also the policy changes from the UN side and make sure that some policies can change, some regulations can be changed for the development in the countries, such as the financial inclusion. So I think you really touch upon very, very important points, that if we can collaborate with organizations such as yours, who has already the experience working with governments on closing the gap, and then UN's, of course, like trust and stability in it, and then the connection to the governments can open the doors to make sure that we reach the people that are hard to reach in different aspects. And I think financial inclusion is one of the topics that is very, very important, of course, when it comes to the blockchain utilization. Thank you so much, Sandra. And maybe now we can move to Matt. Matt and I work so closely because of the Blockchain Academy. So most of the things that we share in terms of our experiences are very similar. But I would like to ask you, Matt, like in terms of like Algorand Foundation actively supporting the blockchain education. You did it with the UN ecosystem, of course. First, how does Algorand balance social impact with the interests of the blockchain ecosystem? And why it is important for the blockchain companies to invest in inclusive education and awareness? I think it's important because we work with different blockchain companies as UNDP. And I think it's also good to hear from your perspective, what is the added value for you and why you think it is important to also collaborate with organizations such as UN for this knowledge divide. Over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Bertru. Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it a little bit. UNDP is generally the primary interface with governments around the world within the UN system. I know that's changed a little bit, but in general. And so one of the reasons why we thought getting the Blockchain Academy off the ground with UNDP was because of that kind of, connector effect, where we train UNDP folks, and they, in turn, if they're interested, are in countries and they interface with governments and they bring them on board. And so it's a real multiplier in a sense. So that's a big reason. And, I'm in it because I think, again, as I said in my opening, comments, that this technology in some cases can be far more efficient, far more transparent, and in some cases give far more agency to beneficiaries than what exists currently. So I believe that with all my heart. And that's kind of in our DNA at Algorand. We're a little bit different. Some of our folks come from, TradFi, but a lot come from the U.S. Treasury and my background with kind of international development in the UN. And we have a big focus on kind of impact, broadly defined. So we spend a lot of time thinking about it. We spend a lot of time supporting and investing in those projects that are dedicated to impact in one way or another, whether it's a company in Mongolia who is supporting and innovating around carbon credits, which has generally been discredited in the past, but with blockchain, you can really transform that industry and make it something that's real and true. Supply chain questions, which are essential to what my former colleagues at WFP do. That's part of their DNA as well. Humanitarian payments are things that are perfectly suited for blockchain technology, and we're engaged in a major way in Afghanistan with a company called Assad Pay. So it's not a kind of an either or thing. It's like these are real world projects that prove the efficacy of blockchain technology in very difficult situations where the outcome will be better than what's being currently used now. And I think about humanitarian payments in Afghanistan, where you've got to wait in line for a long time to get a big wad of cash. That's crazy. So, companies coming in, building on our blockchain are providing a solution to what has seemed to be an intractable problem. And I think, that is kind of what gets us out of bed in the morning. So I think it's important for the ecosystem in general, blockchain ecosystem, because as you said, Bertru, I think you said in the beginning that so many people see this as a crypto thing and crypto is bad, but we need to disentangle that from kind of the underlying technology, which can provide so much good for so many. And so part of our job is to do that.
Yes, thank you so much, Matt. And I also think that with the Blockchain Academy, I think you would also agree with me most probably is that we are making our colleagues understand how they can utilize blockchain on different aspects of their work. For instance, we have colleagues from supply chain department. We have colleagues from HR that are working with maybe digital identity or things like that. So I think with our academy, we can see that now we are making our colleagues understand there are challenges that can also be solved with blockchain that can increase the efficiency as well as, of course, like addressing the problems they're facing. And now I think we have like over 114 challenges that come from academy that really showcases us that with blockchain, actually, you can really unlock some potential within it to really, as you said, real life challenges that we are facing. So I think this academy has been really crucial also for us to understand what is it that our colleagues are facing as like as a challenge. Some of the challenges we are also like sharing it together on a regional level or a global level. So I think the scalability aspect of it is also quite high when you look at it. So
yeah,
now,
I mean, sorry, Bruce, and so from our perspective, aid workers are grinding every day, doing hard stuff, and they're not thinking about, and some are, but what's the new cutting edge technology, and if we can help introduce that and educate them, I think that's a win for the people they serve.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Matt. So maybe now we can move to Alex to hear about from the venture capital side, Alex. So you are investing in breakthrough blockchain-enabled apps targeting key financial infrastructures such as payments, remittances, and identity in the emerging markets. Why is closing the blockchain knowledge gap important in this context, you believe? And can you share a real-world example to us where where entering a new market was either helped or hindered by the local level of blockchain understanding? So over to you, Alex.
Yeah, I think education is the first step to adoption. So if we don't have awareness and education, we're not going to realize the potential of the technology. Um, you know, I feel like technology without adoption is, like a tree dropping the forest where no one's around to hear it. And so to me, that adoption is really what gets me most excited. At the same time, I think we need to make the technology more accessible to people. And so I see it as two ends. One, people need to, become aware, and we do that through hackathons and talking with government agencies and working with developers. But on the other end, we need to make sure that the technology is relatively easy to use. And so from our side, we work with MiniPay, which is the fastest growing stablecoin wallet in the global south. And it basically enables public key address to phone number mapping. So meaning somebody can send money just knowing the person's phone number instead of needing to understand public private key cryptography. And people can send stable coins um, without in using the stable coins as gas fees. So you don't need to understand what a gas fee is. And so we've tried to work with founders and technologies that abstract away unnecessary complexity to make it easier to have adoption. So in terms of specific examples, like one of the markets that we invest pretty heavily in is Kenya, and we've been super impressed by how well informed the regulators are and how open they are to like experimentation. Um, and so that's been a huge boon to us. I mean, we have one company we invested in called Pritium, which has basically enabled sort of like real time uh, remittance cash out, right? So let's say you receive money, somebody receives money from overseas, they get it into their Pritium wallet, and then because regulators are aware and on board with this, they enable a relatively easy cash out into the local M-Pesa rails, and so they can use that money immediately. And so for a fraction of a penny, with instant settlement, just knowing somebody's phone number, they can receive money from abroad and spend it locally. Now think about I was not in humanitarian aid previously, but my understanding is that from the sender to the receiver in the past, a lot of money got stuck in between, and now that's not necessarily the case. Now on the other side, we've had some challenges with um, certain aspects in Nigeria, and I think some of that stems from sort of like a blanket approach to what people think Web3 is. And I think it's important that we kind of differentiate and show the clear, practical, good use cases. Um, I th- so far my experience has been that we should lead with like just tangible use cases to show the good that's happening, because unfortunately there's also bad happening in the Web3 industry. And but I mean my personal view is that is the case with any technology, right? Like nuclear power gave us enormous energy, but it also gives us enormous destruction, right? And so I think it's our job to help define the good and promote the good while limiting the bad. So yeah, that's my approach.
Thank you so much, Alex. And I also think that the part that you mentioned, that technology should be relatively easy to use, I completely agree with it, because I'm leading accelerator program right now on like 12 countries where we have like Libya, Sudan, Nigeria, and like other countries that are in like similar regional situations. And I think, like, I'm from Turkey, I live in Denmark. Maybe we know technology, like, and we have access to it like easier than some other countries, but until you see that actually for them to even connect a Zoom call with an internet connection that is very low is even a problem. So I think that to be able to make this technology really, really easy to use will also open the doors for everyone to be able to understand that actually with a, like as you said, such an easy thing, with a phone number they can even get the payments, is something that we should really prioritize. And I can see more and more, because I'm also very deep in the blockchain like space, is that the technology is actually simple, but it is really all about telling people that it's a simple technology that is not only crypto but more than that, and it can really like address some of the challenges. And I think the digital like payments and the financial aspect of it is really, really, really very crucial. And you also mentioned about the mini pay and everything. So also I think it's important to also have the blockchain for the fundraising part as well. So now I would also like to ask my question to Sandra to tell a bit more about what they're doing on it. So Sandra, in our previous conversation we discussed, sorry, yeah, so we discussed that you are currently building an alliance that is chain agnostic and also aims to bring together diverse stakeholders to create and implement blockchain projects. And one of the alliance objective is to provide education on Web3. Could you elaborate on this initiative a bit more with us? and share why expanding the Web3 knowledge among different stakeholders is crucial, and particularly to give us in the context of implementing blockchain for fundraising, so we can hear from also real use cases too. Over to you, Sandra.
Yeah, thank you. So we're creating an alliance. It's called the Future Aid Alliance, where we're bringing together the biggest NGOs, charities, and also protocols in the sector. So it's chain agnostic. So it's an independent alliance that we're forming because we are a not-for-profit, and we're trying to improve the knowledge base of the whole sector as a whole. And we realized that there is no really convening body that is really talking across the sector, really making sure that everyone understands the technology that's being built, actually explaining like which are the best startups out there, which are the best chains to use, and so that's what we're trying to convene. We're convening right now. And so within the alliance, what we're doing is we're also co-creating pilots, initiating ways to adopt crypto, adopt blockchain, and then also test them and co-create with our charity partners. And we believe this is so important because as you know, that impact is like one of the main sectors that blockchain can actually help to transform. It's being used actually quite widely right now in just like payment transfers to like war-torn areas or sensitive regions. And there's billions being transferred and billions of millions of like cost efficiencies, but it's just not really well known, not even in the sector. It's not that widely known. And even when I'm talking to charities, talking to very large charities that I won't name, like they really don't understand digital innovation. They don't understand blockchain. Some of them only adopted like even just like online payments like some years ago. So just like the whole sector is quite slow moving, risk averse. So we're creating this alliance to demystify a lot of things because we have the in-house expertise and the researchers and also the lawyers as well, because a lot of it is regulations and people, the sector as a whole is scared to move without understanding these things and whether they're allowed to even adopt crypto. And so I think like if we are able to do that, convene it, signpost to the best solutions out there, and also co-create and pilot our solutions with them, we believe like the adoption could be much more easily managed. And then also just made more transparent. I think it's still quite an opaque kind of sector. And there just needs to be much more dialogue and discussion, and then also not to work in silos, to understand who's building what. Maybe there's like efficiencies and partnerships and, you know, cross collaboration. So that's what we're all about. So yeah, so that's what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Sandra. And I really think that the part that you mentioned about the co-creating pilots is very important for the adoption. It's very important. Like that is why with our academy, we don't want like our colleagues to only know the knowledge and be done with it. We want them to also pilot some projects. That is why we have now our SDG accelerator, like blockchain accelerator, because we want our colleagues to adopt technology and then do something that is going to be relevant. And I think like in our team, it is also like, as you said, some big institutions or like organizations, they are not really very aware of these emerging technologies. But I think now also what is going on, like politically and everything, we have to stay relevant as big organizations such as UN or other like donor organizations to know what is out there to be able to address our challenges. So I think to close the gap is also going to help institutions such as ours to provide new skills, new like opportunities for our colleagues to also implement projects that can be maybe like easily solved with blockchain. So I think you really touched on very important points that we also like as a team are looking at. So Matt, based on also what like Sandra said, maybe can you share with us your reflections on the participants of the Blockchain Academy and like any lessons learned from engaging with them, and maybe also touch upon on the co-creation of these pilots and like adopting blockchain like technology based on your discussion with our sessions and everything. So over to you.
Yeah. So for the folks that don't know, so we worked with UNDP to put together this academy, and there were a series of lectures from folks in our ecosystem on supply chain, on carbon credits, on humanitarian payments, on kind of blockchain 101 generally, on tokenization of real world assets, et cetera. And as Bertrand said, it's really well attended. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people from around the world. And so what's come out of that, and which is not surprising actually, is that we've gotten many inquiries from different country offices in Sudan, in Haiti, in Ukraine, and elsewhere about, hey, that sounds like it really worked in Afghanistan, or this disaster wallet in the United States that we helped start sounds, the digital identity, the decentralized identity sounds really interesting. Can we use something like that in Haiti? How do we get something like that off the ground in Ukraine? And those questions, I think, come from the fact that people were really listening. They watched those videos and they kind of took it to heart. And they see, again, that this technology can play a role in their day-to-day work experience, dealing with their beneficiaries. So that, I mean, while I'm really happy that happened, I'm not that surprised, because again, these guys are in the field working and they're looking for solutions to big, real problems, right? And so when they have an opportunity to learn, I think that the effect is what I've just laid out. So, we're going to keep doing this. I think it could be a model for other, large NGOs or agencies, or, we kind of open source the whole thing at some point. But I think it's been good. And the questions and the poll now is really, really cool. So.
Yes, thank you so much, Matt. And really, like I received so many emails coming to me, like thanking for us for this like initiative, because I mean, like our work is work, and we are doing 9 to 5 like similar things that we are used to. So maybe learning about some new things that is specifically tailored for you is something important, because there is so much blockchain academies that, of course, people can take online. But when it is targeted, it really makes a difference.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like Sandra would agree that when it is targeted to the government officials, maybe they don't like let's say like online training, because it's too much for them. They need maybe 3 days live sessions for them to be able to engage with the content right there, because of the fact that they don't have time. So I also think that it's important to know our like who we target when we are also teaching this. And I think with our like academy, we managed to do both recorded and live sessions so that they can also ask their questions. And then following it, the accelerator program gives them opportunity to test it and maybe try out if they can work. So I also see a lot, like most of the requests we get is also really related to the financial infrastructure. So that is why I wanted to ask my question to Alex. Because of the fact that you are working with digital like financial infrastructure, you mentioned about like MiniPay and everything. Can you tell us what is your view on the readiness of the banks and governments to engage with these solutions? And are we seeing enough effort from the traditional institutions to build internal capacity on the emerging technologies such as blockchain knowledge needed to support and also adopt these innovations, especially in the areas where the banking system is underperforming? We can see it in the context of UN in countries where we have the challenges and conflicts. There is the banking system that is like having like hardships. So maybe like over to you, Alex, to answer on that and to hear more from your insights, please.
Yeah, so on the positive side, we've seen a rapid increase in awareness and readiness amongst more traditional financial institutions, but it's still very uneven. Um, from my perspective, as a venture capitalist, that it's also an opportunity though, because a lot of companies can help bridge that gap. And indeed, we're investing in companies that basically help traditional incumbents get up to speed. And so this includes everything from a stablecoin technology infrastructure provider working directly with a traditional payroll provider like an ADP, um, uh, so that payroll can be administered cross-border in their regular workflow, right? They don't need to think about too much else. They don't need to create a new product. It just sort of plug and play technology. And then banks is another example. So what a company we invested in that case for payroll was Mural Pay. a company we invested in to integrate stable coins with banks is called Beam. And that basically enables very easy offboarding once money is sent or received. Um, and so basically provides that last mile connection point with the infrastructure. So again, I guess I'll answer this question also somewhat similarly is, on one side, yes, we're seeing a lot more awareness and interest. And I think, uh, we need to do more work on regulatory clarity to make the traditional financial institutions feel comfortable, like, they're not going to get sued or anything. But on the other side, there's also, um, the technology needs to meet people there. Like for me, I guess you could say I'm a technologist, and so I have the luxury of thinking about these things all the time. But most people have a, you know, 9 to 5 job where maybe 10% of their emotional energy can be devoted to actually thinking about these things. And I think we have to be respectful of the fact that, there's a lot of other things going on, and we need to make it easy so that whatever solution is provided can fit into that maybe 10% excess capacity that can be squeezed out to adopt this technology in the first place. So, um, yeah, we're actively investing in companies that can help bridge that gap, and make it so that, hey, saying yes to adopting this technology is very easy because it's only going to take a week of implementation, not a year of learning. And so we're trying to very practically bridge that divide. But I'm also, would love to speak with your audience, engage with your audience to make sure on the other side that we continue to increase the regulatory clarity, which gives those institutions the confidence that they can adopt without repercussion.
Yes, thank you so much, Alex. And I think I'm actually quite surprised that like venture capitalists are also like interested on the topic of like closing the gaps, because like sometimes it can be for the benefit, I mean for the like profits or not benefit, the profit
So,
and maybe impact aspect of it. But I think it's very nice that you're also looking into that.
I mean, I've always personally believed in doing well by doing good, and I think at the end of the day, like, I've previously started companies, you know, what we're investing in is products and services that solve a problem, right? And so
Mhm.
they're the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. And so to me, the financial gap it's a big problem, and in big problems, we see big opportunities. And I see the opportunity as even bigger here because traditional financial infrastructure does not have the cost structure to meet the needs of this audience. So we have an audience, a potential group of consumers. I know maybe you don't like to think about it in that way. That her needs are not being met because the technology is not cost efficient, and so now we have a large problem that can be solved for and create a lot of value in the world. And of course, we're looking at businesses that can, be profitable slash sustainable. But I do not see them as separate things. I see being able to solve a problem for people that they're willing to pay for is also the foundation of a sustainable investment, a sustainable business that we're willing to invest in.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Alex. And I really think that it is very important to see, as you said, like bigger problems can sometimes be bigger opportunities for us. With UNDP, like in our team now, we are leading the work with the blockchain across different UN agencies, and we can see that now that, of course, we are having the problem with like shrinking the funding for our like organizations and so on. Now it is also kind of for us to look for new opportunities to see how we can change our like financial modality, and maybe also to make our efficiency even better. So looking into blockchain, I think is also relevant for us to make sure that we don't spend so much money on maybe some operations that could be solved with blockchain and aspects like this. So I think we are on the same page on that. And I also think the regulatory clarity is very important with the governments. That is why I think organizations such as ours is the kind of the key matchmaker here between the governments and blockchain companies and like venture capitalists and others to make sure that there is a technology that they can utilize. As you said, 9 to 5, maybe they don't look into these things because of they are busy with like other things, like handling like a country. So maybe our role as UN can be then to partner with organizations such as yours and like Algorand and Exponential Science to make governments understand that there is something that is actually waiting for them, which can be opened up also new places for them and new opportunities for them. So I think we would like to also talk maybe on a separate call, of course, to discuss it further with you as well. So maybe I can ask our participants now if they have any questions, they can put on a Q&A box. I can see one question that we received earlier from Amber. She's asking about with development trends like EIP 4337, account abstraction, will we eliminate the issue of blockchain knowledge gap? If you would like to answer, please, from our speakers. Just like open your microphones and you can answer if you have an answer to that. And you can see also the question on our screen right now, I believe.
So I'm happy to
Yes, please.
take a first stab at this. So yeah, we've been, so one of the blockchains that we were active on is Zello, and they've kind of implemented account abstraction, and that's why we were able to do I mentioned earlier, the gasless transaction fees. So being able to pay gas fees in stablecoins, and the status quo before that was you needed two currencies to send one currency. So if you wanted to send USDT, you needed Ethereum if you're on the Ethereum network, in order to pay the transaction fee to send the fee. And so absolutely, in my mind, this is, and you know, I started working on this back in 2019, right? So I had like, it was very clear to me talking to people that if we did not have account abstraction, but making this very practical, like the ability to pay transaction fees without needing to know other currencies, like nobody's going to adopt this. And so yeah, I think account abstraction, as I mentioned earlier, like definitely reduces the barrier to entry, and makes it much easier to adopt. But I think there's still work that needs to be done. So I think it's part of the solution to make it, easy enough where people actually want to use it. But there's still work we have to do to, get people confident in wanting to use it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alex. I hope that this answered your question, like Amber. So maybe we can go to the next question and then wrap it up after it. So how do we ensure efforts are supporting bottom-up led grassroots communities to lead, get the support they need as local leaders to create and own their solutions, the ethos of Web3, and do so safely given status quo economy interest? If you would like to answer, please. Just you can open your microphones and answer.
I mean, I think if I understand the question, I think it has to come from the people who will ultimately benefit from the technology. If that's the question, we're doing work with a women's cooperative in India called Sewa, and also Mandeshi Bank, where there was a real interest in creating income through the sale of carbon credits for a variety of reasons. For these, and these are local community leaders working closely with women in these cooperatives, and that pull came from them. And as a result, everybody's bought in, everybody is interested, people are benefiting. And I think without that, I'm not sure, in the humanitarian context at least, it's not going to work.
Thank you so much, Matt. Do you have any other inputs, Alex and Sandra, on this?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I definitely strongly agree that it has to be co-created with the people that we're using the technologies for. Otherwise, there could be like a technocratic hegemony within this sector, and that's not what we want. What we think with like even any solution, even with just like the development sector as a whole, we're not there to like give out freebies, give out a helping hand. We're there to bring each other up together, and that can only be done if we work in partnership, in coordination, understanding local needs, and actually partnering with the local charities and organizations. I don't think we can do that like just sitting in the global north and just saying this is what needs to be done, we know better. Like that's just not the case. We know all of the successful initiatives out there, they've involved the local organizations because they know their ecosystem better than we do, and we're transferring knowledge together. We're learning from them, they're learning from us. And so that's how we see the relationship, definitely not in isolation, and it has to be with the full input and the full motivation, and they need to understand why they want to do this and why they want to partner with us as well. And so yeah, from our case, it definitely has to be all about co-creation and incremental piloting. So like if this doesn't work, what's better for that area? So we don't want like one solution for the whole world, because the world is just not like that. We're all different cultures, different contexts. So for example, we're also looking at Islamic countries and also Sharia compliant, like crypto, like staking services, things like this. So we have to be very context specific.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Sandra. I think this is really very, very like important, the local context, because like as you said, like now I live in Denmark and life here is so much different than life in Turkey, and life in Nigeria would be much, much different. And I think when you have the local context, you really know the challenges better. You know what they really want instead of thinking that you know the best what they want. And I think this is what we are seeing in the like philanthropy world, that we should understand local context better, and we should address their problems by hearing them and sense making, understanding what is it that they need, and are they even ready for such innovations. Sometimes some people are not ready because they are not ready there in this moment of time. So I think it's also okay to sometimes say that these are not ready, the ecosystem is not ready, but we can, like all of us together, like try to do our best to make sure the ecosystem is like strengthened. And I think that is what we are all doing, of course, like regardless of the companies or the like organizations we work for. So maybe as the last words, if you have any last inputs, Matt, Alex, and Sandra, I would like to hear from you your last sentences, maybe something that makes us like hopeful, happy about the future, about the blockchain. It doesn't have to be on the blockchain, but creating an impact. So maybe to hear from you last words, and after it we can then close our session. So like whoever want to start, please feel free to do.
Sure. I mean, I'm extremely optimistic and excited about the potential of blockchain. I think blockchain is doing for money and value transfer what the internet did for information, right? So, and my opinion is that financial access is the foundation to participating in the global economy, right? If you can't receive or send money, like your ability to interact with the broader ecosystem and the economy is very limited. So I think we're potentially creating foundational blocks where people who are excluded are now very much included. And so, yeah, I think the impact is on the order of magnitude of what we witness with the internet.
Thank you so much, Alex. So maybe like Sandra and Matt, to hear also from you your last words about this.
Yeah, I totally agree with Alex. Like, I think it's very exciting, especially trying to include different populations. The financial inclusion is really, really exciting, and especially cutting out middlemen. There's so many cost savings, efficiencies, transparency. If we can decrease corruption in the sector, I think there's a lot of mistrust still. People don't know where money is going. I think blockchain could help in that aspect. It does need a lot of architecturing to get to that, to get to a solution that actually makes sense. So I do think like the infrastructure, the governance process of the sector could be rewired potentially with blockchain. But obviously there's a process to that. But yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Thank you so much, Sandra. And Matt?
Yeah, I think the promise is great. I think the promise is great as has Alex and Sandra just outlined. I also think there's the promise of real power to individuals over corporations in a massive way. You know, you think about these big banks that act as these intermediaries and the social media platforms and all their hideousness. You know, this ultimately is about people taking control at an individual level that I think if it goes well, and it may not, but I think that it will, the results could be profound in the areas of financial inclusion, access to those services, you know, generating income. You don't have to rely on big banks anymore. You can rely on the power of people who have this technology and know how to use it. And that is going to be what makes a difference.
Yes, thank you so much, Matt, Sandra, and Alex. And I'm is like mentioned very new on the blockchain. And whenever I go to blockchain events, like I had the last one in Denver, and I can see that whenever I meet people from the blockchain world, like I always feel like sky is the limit for them. And whenever like I engage with you, I really like open up and see that there are so many opportunities we can do. So I'm really happy to hear from you today. And I think with the blockchain academy and making people aware of what is this technology about is very important, and we are all doing our best, I think, here in this panel discussion for that. And I really hope to see more and more like challenges going to be addressed with blockchain. So I would like to thank you once more, Alexandra and Matt. Thank you so much, and also thank you so much everyone for joining us for the session. We hope that you enjoyed it, and hopefully we see each other another event another time. Thank you so much. Have a good day.